Hi, my name is Jim LePage, and I'm the founder and lead artist at Chroma Supply. In this video, I'll go over the installation and usage of our Painter brush pack for Photoshop. These brushes allow you to quickly and easily paint stunning brush strokes within Photoshop, like this. Let's check them out. Now, the first thing to know about this brush pack is that it uses Photoshop's mixer brush tool. Now, a lot of you are probably familiar with the regular brush tool here. That's not what you want. So to get to the mixer brush tool, you'll click here, hold down till you get this pop out, and at the bottom is the mixer brush tool, and you'll know you're on the right one because it has this little water droplet there. So I'll select that, and then up here at the top you see all these settings for the mixer brush tool. Now if you selected this tool, the mixer brush tool, and you don't see this up here, you want to go to Window and make sure that Options is checked. So it's checked now so I can see it, but I'm going to uncheck it, and all of a sudden they go away. So if this is what your screen looks like and you don't have all those tool options up there, just go to Window, Options, and now you can see them. So next thing we're going to want to do is import the brushes. So I'm going to go to Window, Brushes, so we can view our brushes palette. I'll go up in the corner to this drop down and choose Import Brushes. Then you want to navigate to where your Painter Brushes file is stored, and it's an ABR file. So I'll select that, click on Load, and you can see that brush group is now loaded. I'll scroll down and we can see all of our brushes. So now that the brushes are loaded, let's try them out. So before we use this brushes, I'm going to take a quick look, make sure that I have the mixer brush tool selected, and I do, so we're good to go. For this first example, I'm going to choose this brush head. If I look up here, I can confirm that it was loaded. And then I'm going to choose my image swatch, which I have open here. This is just the Painter Swatches PNG file, which came with your product. And I am going to use this image swatch here. So what I want is for the icon of my brush head here to be just slightly smaller than the image swatch itself. And I'm going to hold down the Alt button, and on Mac that's going to be the Option key. So when I do that, I get a little bullseye, and I'm going to center it right in that swatch and click. If I look up here, I can confirm that swatch was loaded. So I'll go back to my main file, close the brush palette, make the brush a little larger, and let's see what this looks like. And you can see just by loading a brush head and the image swatch, you get amazing results. Really cool. So let's delete that. And one thing I want to show you here, you may have noticed it before, but there's a little bit of a lag, and I'm going to move a little faster this time so you can really see it. And if you get this, don't worry. It's okay. What's happening here is this mixer brush tool can sometimes be a little processor intensive for Photoshop. So if you have an older machine, if your machine is a little slower, you may notice that lag. But don't worry, just keep your brush stroke going until you want it to be done, and it will catch up with you. So let's turn that off. And for the next one, let's look at the pressure sensitivity of these brushes. So I'm going to load a new brush head. I think we'll go with that one. I'm going to go to my swatches again, and this time I'll load that one. And you can see right now that my brush icon is a little too large. So if I load it now, if you look up in the preview, you see it loaded some of the surrounding image swatches as well, which is something you can experiment with. But for me right now, I just want this brush only. So I'm going to make my brush a little smaller, Alt click, and there we go. I have it just like I want it. So we'll bounce back to the main document, close up the brush palette, And I'm going to do this first one. I'm going to be pressing very lightly. And I'm using a Wacom tablet, by the way. But it should work with any pressure sensitive tablet. And if you don't have that, if you're just using a mouse, it'll still work. You won't get the pressure sensitivity, but you can still use the brush pack to create the brush strokes. So this time, we'll do it very lightly. And then I'll try it again, and I'll kind of be pressing full force. And you can see that there's a little more depth. There's a little more colors coming through. And this last one, I'll start out soft. Press down a little harder. And then go softer again. So you can see it gives you some subtle differences in the colors that are showing up, the size of the brush head that's coming through. So then let's close that up. And before we go to the next usage, I want to show you, give a little tip about the most efficient way to work with these, at least that I've found. So right now I'm bouncing between 3 different things. My main document, choosing the brush head, and then loading the paint swatch. So it's a little clunky kind of bouncing around between those like I am right now. So what I like to do is go up to Window, Arrange, and tile vertically. And from here, I hover between the 2 open documents till I get these double arrows, click and drag. And now I have my full main document. I can see all my brush heads, and then I can see all the image swatches. So it's a lot easier to kind of bounce between these 3 with this type of layout. So for the next usage, let's look at adding some quick dimensionality with some shading. So let's grab a new brush head, and I'm going to choose that one. And let's grab a new image swatch. And let's try this one here. I can confirm both of those are loaded. And I'll come to my main document here. Make sure I select the correct layer. And let's paint. So as you can see already, it looks pretty cool. There's a lot of dimensionality already there, but I want to give you a quick tip on how to even increase that dimensionality even more. So what I'm going to do, I'll pull over my layers palette here so you can see what I'm doing. So I put a couple other layers above my brushstroke, one for shadows and one for highlights. What I'm going to do is hold down Alt when I'm between these, click, and it gives me this little arrow, and that means that I've clipped this onto that layer. So any shadows I paint will only show up on the layer with my brushstroke. It won't affect the background or if there's any other elements behind there. And then I'll do the same thing with the highlights. And for my shadows, I want to set the blending mode to multiply. For highlights, I've found that overlay seems to work the best for me. So I'll select the shadows layer. And for this, I'm going to go back to the regular brush tool. And I want to use the soft default brush there. And since I'm doing shadows, I want black to be the selected color. Then I'll go over here to my main document, and what I want to do is just kind of have it so the light source is kind of coming from over here. So I'll quickly add some shading to the spots where the light wouldn't be hitting. And this is real quick and dirty. If you spend a little extra time, I think you could really make this shine, but I kind of want to show you how quickly you can get a pretty good effect. So let's turn that on and off. Already a lot more dimensionality. Let's go to our highlights layer, swap the colors so we have white selected for our highlights, And we're going to kind of do the same thing on the spots where we would expect to see highlights. And I actually find this really, really fun. It's kind of a relaxing exercise for me. And I'm actually going to pump up the opacity a little bit here. Let's try 25. I'm going to give this highlight a little bit more. And I'll jump back to the shadows, and I think I might give that a little bit more too. Yeah, I like that depth that it gives there. So that was maybe a minute, maybe 2 minutes, and let's turn the shadow and highlight layers off. You can see that what a couple minutes ago looked pretty dimensional, had a really 3D look, almost looks flat now compared to just with those quick highlights and shadows. So that's something that can be really cool just with paint strokes, but especially like if you end up doing lettering, adding some of those highlights and shadows to letters can make your lettering really shine. So now that we've done some painting, let's look at the included custom layer styles. Another resource that comes with Painter is a set of layer styles. These allow you to quickly adjust the look of your paint strokes with the simple click of a button. So to begin with, let's paint a new paint stroke. And this time, let's grab this for our brush head. And for the image swatch, let's go with that one there. So I can confirm up here, both those are loaded. Come back to the main document. And let's paint. And I really like this brush head because it kind of gives this weird glassy look almost, and it kind of blends these colors together just for some really cool looks. So let's see how our layer styles work on this. So we're going to go to our layer styles here, and if you don't have those open or visible, you can just go to Window and Styles, and just click that, make sure it's checked, and it should be visible for you. So what we want to do is load or import our layer styles and navigate to your layer styles file, which came with the product. You can see it's an ASL file. So we'll select that, click load, expand it, and here are the layer styles we have. So let's go through them one by one. And these first three are these boosts. You can see this one is a bright boost, medium boost, a dark boost, and these are pretty much mainly to do with color, the saturation, and kind of the brightness contrast. So if we go down here to the next one, there's a black, dark gray, kind of a dark grayscale version. Might be a little easier to see on a black background. So then a white, a light gray one, gold, chrome, and a single color. And the cool thing about these layer styles, and I'm going to drag over my layers palette here so you can kind of see what happens, is it adds all these different layer styles on here. And as I cycle through, you can see that some of them will change there too, but they all have different settings to apply these styles. So for example, when I'm on this one color, all these, everything under here is editable. So you can go in there, turn different layers on and off, change things. For example, this one, if I double click to get into the layer style settings, if we look at the title of this one, you'll see it says edit fourth color overlay. So if we count down on these color overlays, 1, 2, 3, 4, and select that one, you can see here's where the color is set. So I'll move it down here so we can see the whole design. So I click in here, I can simply just adjust around here to whatever color I want. So that's just an example on this one, but all of these are the same way. They're all editable. And with so many combinations of brushes and swatches, these really are not a one size fits all. I recommend using these to kind of get you started in a certain direction. But like on this one, you know what? Maybe this is a little too dark for kind of this style. So I would maybe go in there and adjust that a little bit. So while they are good starting points, I encourage you to dive in, start modifying these layer styles to get the exact effect you want. Now let's take a look at how the brushes work for custom lettering. Unfortunately, I'm not very skilled at custom lettering. However, I still think it's worth showing that even someone like me can produce decent results using these brushes. So let's take a look at some lettering I did. Definitely not going to win any awards, but it's decent, especially with my skill level. I'm happy with that. So then I'll toggle on some quick shadows and highlights. And I did those the exact same way we looked at before with our brush stroke, where I just brushed on the shadows and brushed on the highlights and masked it to my main layer. So from here, even though I like how it looks already, I want to see how it looks with our styles. So let's try the boosts. Those look pretty cool. I like how that black looks. I really like the gold. That chrome is nice too. Yeah, I like that gold. So as you can see, the total time it took me was maybe like less than 5 minutes for me to do all this, and it's a pretty decent result. So if you're someone who does a lot of custom lettering, this could be a great addition to your tool set. Now that we've gone over the installation and usage of the brushes, I'd like to take a look at 2 common ways that the brushes may appear like they are not working, and how to fix it. So let's start out by grabbing this brush head, come over to our swatches, Alt-click that, then we come over to our main document, and that's not right. So what's happening right now is it's just painting with a solid color instead of the full image swatch. And the reason, if we come over here, we're on just the regular brush tool. So we always want to make sure mixer brush tool is selected. If we come up here now, you can confirm that because you have separate boxes here for the image head and the image swatch. So let's delete this and let's try this again. We've got our brush head. We're going to come over here to load our swatch. And same thing, it's still just doing a solid color. So in this case, what's happening is under our image swatch, it's checked where it says load solid colors only. So what this means is when you come over here and Alt-click, you can see up here, it's just loading a single color. It's not loading the whole swatch. So if you're getting results like this, it could be that this somehow accidentally got selected. So I'm going to uncheck that. You can see it's off now. So if we go back here, and actually let's delete that first. We'll come back here and Alt-click to load that swatch. Up here you can see it confirmed that it was loaded. So when we go here, it should look right. So if you run into any issues with the brushes using only solid colors, make sure to check these 2 things. I hope you enjoy using these brushes as much as I do. I had a blast creating them. If you create anything using the brushes and post it to social media, we'd love to see it and share it with our audience. You can tag us at Chroma Supply on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Painter is our 150th product. So if you want to see more work like this, check out our shop at chromasupply.com. If you really like what you see there, you may be interested in our subscription, which, for a one-time payment, gives you lifetime access to all our products. Plus, you will receive all future products for free. If you have any questions or feedback, feel free to drop them in the comments below or email us directly at info@chromasupply.com. Thanks.